Hey, welcome back to the Missouri Sports Network here at MissouriSportsNetwork.com. Missouri Sports Network, where everyone has a home field advantage. Certainly glad that you've tuned in. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol and Great Southern Bank remind us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow. It's an honor to bring into the show Missouri State Sports Hall of Famer and Webb City High School football coach, Coach John Roderique. Coach Roderique, hey, thanks for your time today.
You bet. No problem. Good to be here.
Coach, on this opportunity, you got your 300th victory here this past Friday night. Wanted to kind of talk to you about your career and some of the things that you remember, some of the great things of 12 state championships. You got to go back to your hometown. It's got to be an exciting time to be a Webb City Cardinal.
Well, it's been this is year 25 for me, so it's been quite a journey. Been really blessed. I remember whenever you said that hometown, going back to your hometown. I remember thinking to myself, man, I could this could go really well, or this could go really bad. And it was really weird those first 2 years. The first year came in there, we won a state championship. 14-0, and then the next year we go 5-5, and man, when you talk about seeing the both sides of it, and 5-5 is not awful. I mean, it's right there at the 500 mark, but here it's not very good, and it wasn't very good that second year, but we overcame that and got to work, and so, but it's been a great run for sure.
What do you remember about those first couple of seasons? You say 5-5, and no, that's not a bad season, but that's what 20% of your losses over 25 years occurred in that one season.
Well, yeah, the first year, and of course the guy I replaced, it's not like I was coming to a program that was not successful. Kurt Thompson had been here 7 years before that, or the previous 7 years, and then he came in with Coach Keel. Jerry came here for 2 years, and then going back past that, back when I was in high school, Mark McDonald was there. Mark was, he really kind of set the table, I think, for everything. We had some really good years there when he became the head coach, and so, but it's not like it was a program that was just downtrodden and had didn't have any success. I mean, they had success, and I think it was really strange. We had just had our third child, Tyson. He was just months old when I took, maybe a month old when I took the job. Kurt was kind of itching to maybe coach in college football, and we were really close friends from our college football days at Pitt State, and so we talked, and then I kind of reached out to the administration over here, and they called, and my wife had said, we got 3 kids under 4 years old. So she was ready to stay home and kind of raise those kids. And so it just kind of, it kind of happened by chance. I really loved coaching college football, spent 7 years at Pitt State coaching. And as I told people, I said, just 6 months before I took this job, I had no desire to be a high school football coach. But your circumstances kind of change that. You feel like you got to make a little bit more money, and which was significantly more than what I was making, being a college assistant coach. So took the plunge, and then the first 2 years, like I said, we saw the best of it. And in the first year, had a really good team that not a lot of guys had played much, but we had a really good quarterback, Josh Chapman, and kids just bought in from day one. And then, year 2, maybe everybody expected something different. We had a lot of injuries, had a lot of internal issues, not great chemistry in our team. And then, but that was probably the worst. It was probably the worst the worst year I had coaching as far as my own personal coaching. It didn't do a very good job. And, but I probably learned more in that one single year than I learned in any other year that I've ever coached.
As you look back, and you mentioned the time you spent at Pitt State, you got, I believe, at least one national championship there, and maybe a couple of runner-ups there as well. Go back in your coaching. Who influenced you? I mean, who are some of the coaches that you kind of took some things from? Maybe it's the discipline or whatever, but who were your major influences in your life in your career?
Yeah, like I mentioned, Mark McDonald. Mark's still a friend to this day, and he was my high school coach. Took a great interest in me, as a high school player. And I had Eric Johnson. I had a basketball coach at Webb City that's still a good friend too. Eric coached here for 24 years probably, and he's still coaching at College Heights now. And I still talk to Eric quite a bit. When I went to Pitt State, Jerry Kill's the one who recruited me. Jerry recruited me, developed a really good relationship with him early on. And then, my days there, this is what's really crazy now to think about. And I've shared this with a lot of people. My first 2 years as a head coach or as a linebacker coach, I had Jerry Kill the first 2 years. My junior year, Gary Patterson came to Pitt State. He was linebacker coach for one season and then my last year, Tim Beck, who Tim was it was Tim's first year as a full-time coach. That was my senior year. So I played, 4 years and then that next year I started coaching. But Chuck Broyles had a huge influence on me. Obviously Jerry, Tim, Coach Patterson. I was watching TCU the other day and I saw they were showing a picture of Coach Kill and kind of talking about him. And then the next one was, Coach Patterson, then Coach Beck. I saw all three of them, and I've taken pictures, screenshots before and text those three guys. Said, hey man, there's my three college position coaches all in one picture. But that was a great experience for me. As a player, Dennis Franchione was phenomenal. Ahead of his time as far as a head coach. Of course, he went on to bigger and better things. But a lot of those guys during those times, and there was a lot of other assistant coaches that you learn from. I've always tried to, even as a head coach, not try to think that I know everything. I've always tried to learn from our coaches. Even today, you can pick something up from everybody that you encounter, everybody you watch coach, and everybody you listen to. So that's one of the things I think, in coaching, if you're not growing, not trying to get better, man, you're certainly falling behind.
And this kind of just, you mentioned those names. Dennis Franchione started at Miller High School. And I was at Halltown as an elementary student. My dad had helped start the Evangel football program. And you'll not remember this, but my senior year, I went on a recruiting trip at Pitt State to a football game day, and you were my host. You showed us Joe Oschlager, myself. Now, Joe ended up going to Brigham Young, but you showed us around, and there was a running back from Seneca, and he lives in Webb City now. He's a highway patrolman.
Shannon Crouch, yeah.
Shannon Crouch. And I remember following him up the steps, going up into the stadium, and his shoulders were as wide as the hallway. I thought, there's no way I can play here if he's coming here. But this kind of full circle. And you talked about your family and, and Haley and Tyson and John and your wife. What role did they play in your success in your career? Obviously, Tyson, and you've had nephews as well, play quarterback for you and win some state titles, but just overall your family.
The biggest thing that, you start realizing it more as an athletic director or as a head coach, and the times that we're in now, as far as the younger people coming out into coaching, is, my wife, when we were dating when I was a graduate assistant, and it was 24/7 coaching football. Even my early days, I think we get married and gosh, we played, you mentioned earlier, we played in 3 national championship games, and we're playing all the way through to December, in the first week in December, playing 14 or 15 college football games, the camps, the time. So my wife understood what coaching football meant, so, that's one thing I think that a lot of times coaches' wives now, or coaches now, they don't really understand the time commitment, and it's probably a lot less than what it used to be, with the invention of Huddle and the, video online. You can sit on the laptop and watch film. You couldn't do that back a long time ago. So, but my family has probably been my biggest inspiration. My wife, Heather, and Haley, John, and Tyson, our 3 kids. It's I know when your kids are going through playing for you, or they're younger, you're putting in more time probably than you normally would. It's like you want to make that not that you don't in other years, but man, you just want to make that experience as special as possible. And I've also noticed that with some of our assistants that have had sons play. I mean, you're gonna go above and beyond every single time just to try to get the kids ready and prepared. But what really probably makes you more proud, especially now, they're older. They've all. Tyson's actually in his second year of medical school. John's married. He's got a son. He's got a really good job. Haley is she's actually been a counselor here. She's spending her first year at home. They've got 2 sons, so we've got 3 grandsons, and man, I'm probably more proud, just of the kind of people they are, and what they've done with their lives and their families, and so. But it's really special. That's one of the things that have over the years you think about, well, maybe there's another opportunity to coach somewhere else, and you have people reach out, and my wife and I said when we came here, or when we started having kids, it's like, we're not going to have there's not going to be anything more important than those kids for X amount of years. So we're not going to take a job somewhere, we're not going to go somewhere if it's going to disrupt their lives. And I think that's one thing that we're really proud of, is just being able to stay put somewhere, and just make sure that they had the best experience till they got, out of high school or out of college, whatever. And so that's kind of been a priority for us, for sure.
Coach, as you look back at the 329 games that you were the head coach on the sidelines, are there games that you'd sure like to go back and maybe coach again? Maybe it's because you have family on the field. Maybe it's a game that got away from you, or maybe it was a state championship game that was just so much fun. But are there games that you look back and say, "Boy, I'd like to do that again"?
Everybody asks, they said, about the state championship games, 12 state championships. And, I guarantee you the 2 that I remember the most are 2004, which, I had one of my nephews played in that game, Braden, who, played baseball at Missouri State there, lives up he used to live in the Springfield area. Now he's down in Northwest Arkansas, but Braden, he was a senior. Was he a senior? Yeah, he was a senior that year. And we lost in overtime. We lost the state championship game in overtime. And, that's the one. I mean, those are the games that I remember more than I don't know if I remember all the losses, but I remember those a heck of a lot more than I remember the wins. And then 2015, so we had 2004. Gosh, we go 4-2 in overtime and didn't get it, against a really good Clayton team. Had Jarris Bird in there, played in the NFL for quite a while. And then in 15, we fumbled the ball in the end zone, from the 1 yard or 1 foot line. So, we've lost 2 of those 14 state championships that we've had a chance to play in. And if there was any regrets, and honestly, it's like, man, I didn't have the right call. I didn't call the right play, didn't have the right, situation. But, the one thing we've always been able to do is learn from those things, and hopefully, the next time we get in that situation, we're prepared better.
If you could, if 2021 John Roderick could go back and talk to 1997 John Roderick, what advice would you give him?
I would probably, that's a tough question. First, I would say try to enjoy it. Don't just, because things happen. We, kind of smell the roses a little bit more. Just enjoy the time a little bit more. Don't always think you have to go right back to the film, or right back to the coaching, and maybe enjoy the experience a little bit more. We kind of put them on the shelf and move on to the next one. And I think that helps with, you're not sitting around thinking about it, or patting yourself on the back, but maybe trying to enjoy that a little bit more. I don't think anybody ever regrets, that they didn't work hard enough or didn't put too much time in. I mean, that's, probably, I'd say on the other side, take a Sunday off and go to a Chiefs game, or, go to some other college games, things like that. Just enjoy a little bit more of that time. And then, from the coaching standpoint, when you're young, or when I was young, I was focused on, what's the scoreboard say at the end of the night, and getting kids prepared. And then at some point in time, there's been a transition where it becomes all about the kids and the relationships that you have with the kids. I think about some of those early teams that we had, And, you know, and I've told some of those guys, cause I'm really good friends with a lot of those guys that have played over the years. And I'm like, man, I'm surprised you guys still talk to me as much of uh, uh, a hard butt as I was, I guess I would say, you know, as hard as I was on you guys, I'm surprised you still, but the kids also, you know, they appreciate that you know, that they appreciate what you do for them early, when they're young, because they learn, and, you know, it kind of helps them out, figures life out a little bit sooner.
We're visiting with head football coach at Webb City Cardinals, John Roderick, on 300th win here in his career to 29 losses. And Coach Roderick, just one last question here before we let you go. If you could go back in time and interview anyone in history, dead or alive, and you know, who would be that person that you would love to just sit down and visit with, and kind of, you know, pull on the brain a little bit and say, just talk to them.
You know, that's probably, you probably think of, you know, historical people. Most people think I've got a poster here, you know, a lot of posters from some great Vince Lombardi and some of those guys. I would probably have to say my father would be the first, be one. He died when I was 10 years old. Never saw me play a football game. You know, football became a really big part of my life, but he passed away at a very young age, and you know, my mom raised 7 kids, or 8 kids. 7 of them were still, you know, high school all the way down to like 3rd grade. So he would probably be the one. I would probably say him. Just, you know, just feel like he didn't get a chance to see what, you know, what could become of you, and just the experience. He was a big basketball person, but which I, you know, love basketball too. But you know, I'd say that'd be the one that I would pick. Other than that, would be somebody like you know, a Lombardi, or, you know, somebody like that.
Outstanding. Well, Coach, first off, you've always been so generous with your time. Going back to the scoreboard shows, I would text you, and you may be on a bus 3 or 4 times a year, but you would always call in, and just you've just been so humble. And you know, I've had coaches say, "Hey, you know, Coach Roderick's walking. I mean, he's a legend, but you wouldn't even know it if you passed him on the street." And you have just been so humble, and just really a good guide for young coaches coming up. The discipline, the consistency, the fairness, and the work ethic, and just those are things that pop in when you hear when you hear the name John Roderick. But I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed visiting with you, and I look so much forward to having another opportunity to do it again.
You bet, guy. Anytime, man. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. John Roderick, Webb City Cardinals, and we'll be back after this.